We finished polishing our car, and now we're going to address our tires and our wheels. Now in the preliminary wash, we cleaned the tires and the wheels, but as you can see after the polishing, we've made quite a mess on the tires. Now if your tires haven't been cleaned thoroughly, let's say in the last year or so, it's a good idea to actually pull them off the car, and that's what we're going to be doing this morning. It's important when you do take them off because then we can clean the back side of the wheel as well as the back side of the tire, and we can apply a lot of dressing back there, and that's really going to protect our tire down the road. I just want to talk a little bit though about jacking the car up. This is a very important thing. When you do jack the car up, you want to first make sure you're on a hard level surface. We're going to be putting a chock under one of the back wheels to hold it so our car doesn't roll back. Then when we center our jack and bring the car up, we're going to be using car stands to hold the car up when we take the tires off. These are very important, the car stands. You always want to use them in tandem when you center them in under the car, and you want to make sure that you just don't rely on the jack to hold the car up when you're taking the tires off. You can never rely solely on the jack. That's why the car stands will be our support when we do take the tires off. So now we're going to jack it up and take the front tires off. We're now ready to clean our tires and our wheels. One of the important things before cleaning your tire and your wheel is that you make sure that they are cool, which these particular tires are and wheels. Now, when we first start to clean our tires and our wheels, we're going to be using a simple degreaser and some elbow grease, and we're going to scrub the tire and the wheel. We'll flip it over, we'll do the back side, and then we'll give them a thorough rinsing. Now when I clean the tires and the wheels, I like to use our soft scrub brush, and I'll use an old wash mitt too. Now there are chemicals made specifically for tires and wheels. If you are going to be using those products, make sure you read the directions first, because some of these cleaners do contain acid, and if it's not compatible with the type of wheel that you have, the acids can actually mar the finish of the wheel. So it's very important that you read the directions and make sure you have the proper cleaner for the type of wheel you have. So I'm going to go ahead and start scrubbing our tire and wheel. The manufacturer of this wheel recommended that we don't use any cleaners that contain acids or abrasives. So to clean this wheel, we're going to be using our simple green degreaser and some elbow grease. This is the steel wheel off of our BMW 2002. After an initial cleaning with a mild detergent, we felt that the wheel didn't look as good as it should, so we decided to repaint it. We've had a garage take the tire off the wheel. What I'm going to do today is to sand with an emery cloth these blemishes that are on the wheel. If you're fortunate enough to have a sandblasting rig like this at home, this would make the job much faster, a little easier. But I'm going to use some emery cloth, and I'm going to come down in here and we're going to start sanding the blemishes. Okay, we're done sanding our wheel. Before we start to paint, though, we're going to clean the wheel up with this Eastwood pre-paint prep. Basically, it's a degreaser, dewaxer. We're going to spray it on the wheel. We're going to wipe it off. Here's a little note, though. Once you do apply the prep to the wheel, don't touch the wheel. Your grease in your fingers or oil in your fingers will contaminate the new paint. So we're just going to come in here, and we're going to spray the wheel. And then with a clean towel, we're going to wipe off the excess cleaner. You want to apply it liberally. We're going to do this several times. It's going to take several coats to get all the loose dirt off. Okay, we're ready to prime our wheel now. Just we want to mention though, before we start the priming process, that it's good that you do this in a well-ventilated area. We've set up a small fan here to expel any combustibles. We set a little filter on it too, just to catch any solids. Now, we've stuck our paint into some warm water just to warm it up. You never want to stick your paint over a direct heat source. When you're priming and painting, remember that several light coats are better than one heavy coat. Okay, now we're finished with the front. We just want to make sure that, remember, paint the outside edge of the rim, and then don't forget to paint the back. Here's a finished wheel next to an original condition wheel. We use silver wheel paint and clear coat from the Eastwood Company to finish our wheels. We've had the garage mount the tires back on the wheels. We asked them, though, not to inflate them. This gives us a perfect opportunity to touch up the paint if they possibly damaged it when they mounted the tire onto the wheel. Before putting the wheels back onto the car, we're going to apply dressing to the inside of the tire. Since this area isn't cleaned frequently, we're going to put on a heavy coat. We're going to let it soak in for a while before we're going to buff it off. With the wheels off the car, it's also an excellent time to apply dressing to the front of the tire. If you happen to have a set of old alloy wheels at home, you can attain this finish by simply using an electric drill and a buffing wheel. We're going to look at the steps to get us from this wheel to this wheel. When your alloy wheels are as bad as this, mild soap and water won't clean them. What we're using is an aluminum cleaner. We recommend whenever using any industrial cleaner that you read and follow all the safety precautions. Now we've mixed it up in this graduated beaker and we've put it into this spray bottle. What I'm going to do is spray the wheel and we're going to rub it off. Now it'll probably take several applications to get the wheel clean, but with a little elbow grease and some time, you can start to achieve a clean finish. Okay, now we've cleaned all the oxidation off, and the rim has a nice even satin look to it. You could put the rim back on the car as is, or if you'd like to take it to the next level, that would involve buffing. To clean our old aluminum mag wheel, we're going to be using our Eastwood Wheel Smoothing Kit. Now that kit consists of 3 different compounds. There's an 80 grit, a 220 grit, a 320 grit. It also comes with several 4-inch wheel buffs. When I use the kit, I like to use a buff rake to clean off the buffs as we go. Now, it's also very important when you are using any sort of polishing compounds that you wear a respirator and eye protection as well. With a wheel that's as oxidized as ours is, we're going to start with an 80 grit and then work progressively finer. You don't want to apply too much pressure to the buff pad. The compound and the pad should do all the work. On soft metals like aluminum, the pad loads up very quickly. I have to constantly clean them with a rake before applying compounds. With the 220 grit compound, the wheels are going to start to really shine. I'm now applying our EEE buffing compound. Now our finished wheel, we've used several applications of the EEE and then a final application with the white rouge. Now in between each compound, I used our Eastwood Pre to clean off any excess compound that was on the wheel as well as any excess metal that has built up. Now today we've been using a hand drill to do this. It spins at around 1300 RPMs. Ideally, though, you'd be better suited with a buffer that spins at around 3,000 RPMs. If you are going to be using a drill, remember, take your time, work methodically, and you can get there too. Now with our wheels off, we're going to detail our wheel wells and our visible undercarriage. We're going to be painting under here, but before we can paint, we're going to have to clean it off. Now, these areas in the car are probably one of the most dirtiest areas, so it's very important that you clean it thoroughly. Now, you can clean it several ways. One, we can use a garden hose, spray there and get in there and scrub. Or if you happen to have a power washer available to yourselves, that will really do an effective job for cleaning in there. The alternative to the power washer is something from the Eastwood company, which is called a grime blaster. It uses your garden hose, water, and an air compressor to force air with the water. This is a very effective way for blasting away the grime and dirt that's built up underneath our wheel wells. So first I'm going to go in there, spray it all, get the heavy stuff off. Then we'll be using a mild degreaser. I'll go in and I'll scrub all the surfaces, and then we'll follow up with a rinse with our grime blaster. We'll let it dry, and then we're going to apply our undercarriage paint into the wheel well. We're now ready to paint our fender well to the wheel, our exposed undercarriage. First, we're going to treat with Eastwood pre-painting prep the areas that need to be painted. Next, we will mask off the areas inside here that we don't want to paint. Then on the rusted areas in the fender well and the exposed undercarriage, we'll be using our Eastwood poreless rust stabilizer. Now, the owner of the car had requested that we paint the fender wells a dark color. For that, we have chosen our Eastwood chassis black. It's important that all surfaces to be painted are treated with pre. I'll go back and wipe off any excess with a clean cloth. I'm applying Corliss from an aerosol can. You may be able to see a few areas that the owner applied Corliss several years ago. After 2 years, they're still rust-free. Chassis black is a high solids paint. You'll find that it covers extremely well and dries to a hard, durable surface. I'm painting the rocker panels with chassis black. It matches the factory appearance chassis black, and it'll give us a real sharp contrast between the panel and the chrome trim. We'll keep on going and paint the rear wheel well. For cars equipped with drum brakes, you might want to consider painting them. As with our BMW, this brake drum was visible through our steel wheel. So what we've done is we've taken it off, we've sandblasted it, we've put it back on the car, and now I'm going to paint it with our Eastwood brake drum coating. Now this paint is an epoxy paint designed specifically for this application. Once the paint dries, we're ready to get the wheels back on the car. We're going to be cleaning the inside of this Chrysler minivan. Our Ford Mustang is a race car, so that car has no interior. Our BMW 2002 is really in need of a restoration inside, so we've chosen this late model Chrysler minivan for our interior cleaning. Now, when we first start the detailing, we're going to go about the cabin and remove any large debris. This particular vehicle also allows debris to remove the rear seat, so we'll be doing that so that we have plenty of room when we're inside there cleaning. Now, the first step will be a vacuuming, and we're going to start from the rear. First step, and we're going to work our way forward. Now, we're vacuuming the back of our minivan. We're going to be using this Eastwood vacuuming kit, which came with this nice long flexible hose, came with a nice wide attachment for doing the flat surfaces, a crevice tool for getting in between the carpet and the wall panels. Now when we start to get up around the glass and when we move forward to the front, we'll be putting in a bristle attachment so that we can actually dust and vacuum at the same time. When vacuuming the seats, make sure you get in between the two cushions. This is a real trouble spot. The crevice tool is real handy for this. We're now ready to clean the hard surfaces of the vehicle. We're going to start from the back and work our way forward. When we first clean the surface off, we'll use our terry cloth sponge. And now, since the newer cars have a textured surface, once we clean it off with a sponge, we're going to follow up with a soft bristle brush. And then for the tight nooks and crannies, we'll actually use the toothbrush. Now, we're going to start on this panel, and we're going to start at this worst stain that we have right here. When cleaning your speaker grills, you want to first use the bristle brush on the vacuum, or you can use a static duster like the one we've got here from the Eastwood Company. This particular model, you twist it first to get the charge up, and then you go in and you clean the grill. Once we've dusted it or vacuumed it, then you want to follow up with a damp cloth, and you just want to wipe the surface of the grill. What you want to avoid is getting any moisture beyond the grill into the speaker itself, because that's where damage will occur. Now, we have an ashtray right here. What we'll do with that is just pop it out, and we're just going to soak this in the bucket with the detergent, and then just clean that later. Coming up here to the cup holder, what we'll want to do is use the towel down in the cup holder at first to clean the major part of it. Then we'll follow up with something like the toothbrush and wrapping a towel around the brush, and then you can get in right around the perimeter so you get all the dirt out. This also works for cleaning where the carpet comes down right to the hard surface. You can get right along there with this as well. And don't forget to clean all the hard surfaces like these seat tracks. When cleaning the front of the car, I like to sit right in the driver's seat. We're going to be using a towel with just some clean water. First, we're going to start with our visors. Now, the visors in our minivan are cloth, so we've already vacuumed them, and they're in good shape. If your visors are vinyl, you want to make sure you pull them down and clean both sides. Come over to the dome light, make sure that that's nice and clean. Move up to our rear view mirror, clean behind that. A lot of dirt gets behind there. Then we're going to look over at the pillars. We're going to wind there. Down the pillars. Then we'll go across the dashboard. When you're doing the dashboard, be careful that you don't get any water into the grills. We talked about that in the back. And also into the vents. You just don't want water building up down in there. As we come over the dashboard, we'll move towards the steering wheel. We'll want to give that a good wipe. Then we'll come down to the instrument panel. Again, you don't want to use too much water because water can damage the gauges. And then we'll work our way down the gauges, eventually to the floor. The armrests represent a tough spot. There's a lot of embedded dirt in that armrest. We're going to be using a foam cleaner to help bring that dirt up to the surface. Don't forget to clean the pedals. To get into the grooves, an old toothbrush works well. Don't apply protectant to them because it'll make them slippery. This is a perfect opportunity to take a look at the seat belts. If they are dirty, what you want to do is just pull them out all the way. Now, once you get them all the way out, you can use a rubber cord or a piece of rope and lash them over to the other side of the car to hold them out. Then take your cleaning towel and just give them a real good wipe down. Once we've got them all wiped down, we'll just let them dry for an hour or so, and then we can release them back and let them roll back in. We've now cleaned our front seats and our dashboard, and we've moved to the back of the vehicle because we're ready to apply our vinyl protectant. There are two schools of thought in applying the protectant. The first is a glossy finish, and then the second is a dull finish. The glossy finish, is achieved by applying a heavy amount of protectant right to the surface, waiting a day or so, and then removing the excess. The dull finish is achieved by applying a small amount to a pad, wiping it on the surface, and then buffing it dry. I prefer the second method, or the dull finish, for several reasons. One, it gives the vinyl a more original look to the car, and the second is the vinyl's less slippery. So now we're going to apply some right to the pad. We're going to wipe it on. Remember, take your time, coat all the surfaces evenly, and don't forget the hidden areas too. We're now ready to apply our vinyl protectant to the front of our car. We're going to be starting with our visors. Now our visors are cloth, so we've already cleaned them. If you have vinyl visors, you want to make sure you get both sides of the visor. Then we're going to come over to the pillars. We'll come down the pillars. We want to avoid this black section in our car. We don't want to put any shine onto this because this will cause a glare to the driver. We don't want to do that. Also, we want to avoid getting any of the protectant on the rim of the wheel. That'll cause the wheel to get slippery or greasy, and you don't want that to happen. So we're going to come in here and start down. Now I'm using a sponge that gives me real good control and will avoid those areas that I talked about. When cleaning our seats, I'm going to be using an upholstery cleaner. Remember to read and follow the manufacturer's directions. This particular product, what we first do is to spray it on the seat. Then we take a soft bristle brush and we rub it into the seat. We let that sit for a few seconds. The foam that's in there will bring the dirt to the surface, and then we're going to take a clean, dry towel and just wipe that off. Now that we've cleaned our upholstery, we're ready to apply an upholstery protectant. Remember, though, to read and follow all the manufacturer's directions. I've found when using this product, you get better results if you push into the fabric as you apply the protectant. You get much better penetration and then better protecting power. The final step to our interior cleaning will be the carpets. Since the mats are the dirtiest, we're going to take them out of the car and we're going to clean them outside of the car. The interior carpets, being beige, have quite a few stains in them. To remove the stains, we're going to be using a carpet spot and stain lifter. Just make sure you read the directions and follow any manufacturer's recommendations in using this product. In between the seats, we have a classic spilled cup of coffee stain. Spot remover is also effective on these large areas. Now that we've cleaned all the trouble spots in the carpet, we're going to be using this chemical carpet cleaner. Just remember to read and follow all the directions that come with the cleaner. Now that we've done such a good job cleaning up our carpet, it's time to protect it. We're going to be using this spray-on protector which is designed for the carpet and for the upholstery. I'm going to be using this piece of cardboard to minimize the overspray. We'll be cleaning our car mats outside of the car. First we'll use our spot remover, and then we'll follow up with our carpet cleaner. The mats take the bulk of the dirt in your car, so they require several cleanings to get them all ready. The driver's side mat in our minivan had quite a few burn holes in it, so we'll be replacing that mat. Older cars, like our 2002, had painted metal trunks. As you can see, ours is quite weathered and worn. We're going to refinish it with a splatter trunk spray. After vacuuming, we're going to go thoroughly wash the trunk. Most cars have a drain hole that lets the water drain out. We'll brush the loose rust and paint off. Clean, then cover the rusted areas with Corliss. We're going to mask off a few areas that we don't want to paint. Before priming, we're going to treat the surfaces to be painted with Pre. Once everything dries, we'll prime the trunk. Then apply our splatter paint. Final step is to coat our trunk paint with a clear top coat. And here we are. When detailing the trunk, it's a perfect opportunity to take a look at the tools in the trunk. For example, this jack, we're going to give it a coat of paint, but first we'll treat it with Eastwood Pre, and then we're going to give it a coat of black paint with this Eastwood Underhood Black. Now that we've cleaned and polished our paint, cleaned our interior, we're ready to address the trim, our weather stripping, and our glass. Now, when you machine polish your car, you'll find that you'll get quite a bit of overspray. Now, this overspray of polish tends to get caught by the trim. So we'll be using some of our favorite tools to clean it out, like our Q-tips, our toothbrush, and the paintbrush. If your car happens to have chrome trim, there are several metal polishes on the market today that work quite well. Remember, when putting on the polish, take your time and go over the whole car. But more importantly, read and follow the manufacturer's directions. Cleaning the glass is pretty straightforward. Some detailers like using plain water and a cotton towel. I prefer to use the commercial glass cleaners. Remember when cleaning your door windows that you bring the window down a few inches when you first start. You want to clean the top section of the window first. A lot of people miss that little detail. Now remember, don't forget to clean your headlights, our side reflectors, all the mirrors, and our tail lights too. Let's not forget to protect our weather stripping and exposed seals. I like to soak a towel with the protectant and then wipe it on. Now the towel lets me put on a nice heavy coat and actually control it rather than spraying it on and getting a lot of overspray. And then what I'll do is we'll let this soak in, and I'll come back a little later and wipe the excess. In many older cars, they used rubber on the trim and for the covers of the bumper. Now, over time, this rubber dries out and cracks. If you have rubber on your bumper or your trims, you might have noticed also that anything that sticks to it leaves a stain. Now, even after polishing our 2002, some of the polish has seemed to embed itself on the surface of these covers and trim. So to rejuvenate these areas, what we're going to be using is first our Eastwood pre-painting prep to clean and prep the surface. Then we're going to follow up with our Eastwood battery tray coating to cover the surfaces. Before using any paint pre-cleaner, make sure you test it on an inconspicuous spot to make sure it's compatible with the surface that you want to clean. If you elect not to remove the pieces, don't forget to remove the overspray. Okay, that's about it. I hope you've enjoyed our tape, and we'll see you down the road.